imagine it'll be much louder than our fans were here on Saturday, honestly.
Ooh!
What?
Howdy, Chiefs Kingdom. It's Wednesday, 7 o'clock. That means it's time for Chiefs Kingdom Live. Thanks, everybody, for watching, for tuning in. If you haven't clicked like and subscribe already, do that for us. Helps us out a bunch. Tell a friend, tell a family member, tell a coworker. We, old T-Law there, Trevor Lawrence, throwing a little shade at the Chiefs Kingdom, giving the fans a little bulletin board material. You usually see that with the opponents, the bulletin board material, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit when we get to this divisional matchup between the Chiefs and the Jags. KC versus Jacksonville round 2 this season. We're going to talk about some super wild card weekend games. There's actually some pretty good games last week. We'll get into that, and then we'll break down the other divisional round matchups, do some predictions here at the end. Before we get into all that, fellas, how are we doing this evening? Bo, you set up. Well, there goes Bo. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I finagled it so that I'm going to be able to go to the game this weekend. It's my daughter's birthday and had to basically make some promises to make that happen. I know. So I told her,
and the award for worst dad of the year goes to.
I gave her the choice of whether I went or not, and then when she said no, I said, "Well, I'm going anyway. Too bad. Tell it to your therapist." But no, so Scott and I are going to be at the game. I'm pumped. I'm ready. We're running up on the year since the Bills divisional, game last year. It's that time. It's playoff football, man. It's exciting. It's time for the shit to matter, right? It's time for Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, Travis Kelce. It's gonna be fucking awesome. How are you, Bo?
I was thinking about just hitting mute and stop cam again because I knew you were about to be like, "How are you doing, Bo?" Just got you again. Sorry, I had some communications I had to attend to. No, I'm doing good. Got all moved here to Vegas, ready to hit the craps tables, ready to go catch a show, get a $16 prime rib apparently at one of the casinos I drove by today. That sounds not so good, but hey, Vegas. No, I'm doing great. Like Nick said, playoff football. I'm excited to see the Chiefs play. It was fun watching the games, but when you don't have a vested interest in the games, they're just not as fun. And just kept looking forward to this upcoming weekend. So.
Yeah, I was talking to a coworker about that this week, and I was like total snob, spoiled Chiefs fan. Now I'm like, I only really get excited about the playoff games. Looks like we got everybody's in the chat here. We got Tom, we got Laney, we got Brenda, we got John V's in the house.
What's up, everyone?
Sorry if I missed anybody here. I'm on the phone screen, so I don't get to see a whole lot, but appreciate you joining in.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get into these games. The Super Wild Card Weekend was pretty good. If you missed it, we did a live watch show during the Jags Chargers game last Saturday, I believe. That was Saturday, right? Yep, Saturday.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun. We'll have to do that again here maybe for another one of these playoff games. I don't know what y'all got going on Sunday or something, but we'll try to do that again. That was a lot of fun. That was a wild game. That's going to be the Chiefs' opponent. Was the winner of that game as it turned out. So let's talk about that game. Let's just get right out the gate.
Do it.
Chargered.
Dude, that game was so fun to live stream. I was telling Nick or both of you guys that just being Chiefs fans watching that game and saying things like, "Oh man, 27-0." It's not impossible. We've been there before. And then just to watch them do that, it was pretty cool to live stream that game. That was fun.
Yeah, no, it was a wild game, somewhat reminiscent of the Chiefs-Houston playoff game from a few years ago, where it was 24-0, although the Chiefs were able to erase that deficit by halftime. It took the Jaguars up until they didn't lead for 1 second of that game, technically. Won a playoff game without leading. That's a total Chargers stat right there, right? Led the entire game. Well, not the entire game. I guess it took them 90 seconds to get that first touchdown after the turnover. But, wild game. Jags couldn't do anything right in the first half, and then couldn't do anything wrong in the second half. And the Chargers they just, I mean, that's just what they do. I know a lot of Chiefs Kingdom resting a lot easier after that game. People on Twitter were talking about, oh, this Chargers team, we got to beat this team for a third time there in the first half. But really, that was all Jacksonville. The Chargers offense didn't really do much in that game outside of the defense giving them the ball, inside the red zone 3 times in the first quarter?
Yeah, completely. It was completely defensive sided on the Chargers' part. Yeah, you nailed that right on the head.
Yeah. So just watching that game, at what point did you think, like, holy shit, the Jaguars are actually going to win this game, Nick?
Yeah, when they got within 10, I was just like, the Chargers are not moving the ball. Trevor Lawrence has shook it off. Credit to that dude threw 4 picks in the first half, right? And then once we were talking on the live stream, we're like, how close are they going to get? And I think Scott said, I don't think they'll get within 10. When they got to 10, I was like, the Chargers are going to lose this game.
Yeah.
So that was nuts, man. It was that was a hell of a comeback. Hell of a gamble by Doug Peterson. I know the much debated gamble on the Chiefs Kingdom Live stream of whether or not you go for 2 in those situations and what you do. And we saw kind of a similar play not work out for Baltimore, right? Where they were diving with the ball at the goal line and it went the other way for 6. But it was, it was a great comeback by the Jags. And look, I felt kind of bad for Justin Herbert, right? But at the same time, as bad as I felt for Justin Herbert, I felt a lot more happiness and laughter towards the Chargers just because of all the shit that gets talked every year about how it's their year to win the division and how they're going to do this and that. And then you saw a bunch of people saying that the Chargers were going to come into Arrowhead in the postseason and send the Chiefs home and end their season and go to the Super Bowl. And then they blew a 27-point lead and they went home. So it was
Scott likes to point out Herbert's nickname, the new Mahomes, right? That fell flat on its face.
Right. Yeah. It's like new coat. He's better than the original. Not so much. Bo, when did you think the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to pull off the comeback and win that game?
Dude, I honestly didn't. That's why I was like, they should go for 2 right there. Like, what the hell? Like, you're not going to win this game. You might as well try to go for it, right? And it just kind of happened to work out in their favor. And as Nick pointed out, same play happened in the following game against the Bengals and Ravens. I think that play though they were a little bit further away from the goal line than the Jags were, so they had a little higher hopes on converting that play. But I didn't think they were going to win, dude. Like, I mean, they started making their comeback, but God, the time just started ticking down. I started doing math, just like, hey, man, I don't think this is going to happen. Prove me wrong though. What about you?
I think I said at some point during the live stream, I want to say it was there somewhere towards the end of the third quarter, the Jags were moving the ball. They got past midfield. And I said, I feel like they're going to win this game now. and they did. I'd be interested to see what everybody in the chat thought about the decision by the Chargers coach to go for 2 there at the end. I still cannot bring myself. I know the decision ended up winning them the game ultimately, but still, to me, the risk of putting yourself in a position to have to go score another touchdown right there to win the game. I know people would say playing for overtime is risky, but there was like no time left. And unless you get an onside kick there, or unless you get a quick 3 and out, or the Chargers do something dumb like turn the ball over, you're not going to get the ball back with enough time to go down and score a touchdown. But hey, it worked out good for them. They won the game. Do we think that makes the Jaguars more dangerous, less dangerous for the Chiefs this weekend, Bo?
A little bit, man, just because the streak they're on, I'm noticing, isn't their offense winning them games. It's defense winning them games, right? And I just hate to, I'm not saying that their defense is anything that like Patrick Mahomes hasn't seen, but when you go up against a hot defense, it just makes it that much tougher to pull out a victory. So I'm not too worried about it though.
How much are you paying John C., Bo? That's what I want to know. Yeah, wild, crazy game. Do we think before we go on, we'll talk about a couple of the other wild card AFC matchups there, games that were actually pretty good games as well. Do we think this has a chance of really deflating the Chargers next year? We saw what happened when the Chiefs came back against Houston. It was kind of like a crushing defeat for that organization. Now, they had other factors, the whole Deshaun Watson circus that went on and everything that went on with that whole situation. And that organization is kind of a mess. But I could see a loss like that really having a hangover effect next year for the Los Angeles Chargers. What do you guys think? You see that possibly being something that carries over into next year, Nick?
Definitely, especially when, Bosa after the game is then blaming the referees that they blew a 27-point lead. Like, oh, they're probably sitting back there laughing, saying, that just shows there's not a lot of
They
accountability.
probably were.
Right? Yeah, but there's not a lot of accountability there from the players to sit there and be like, man, we blew that. Like, what were we doing? I just look at it, that's one of the things I didn't notice in that game was the referees, really. But yeah, I hope so. I hope it deflates them. They've already fired some of their staff members. They've retained Staley as the coach, which everybody thought, oh, that dude's gone. Like they were already basically changing the name on the parking spot to Sean Payton, and it looks like they're not even maybe going to change their coach. And so, you're going to stick with the coach that blew the lead, but you never know, right? The Chiefs with Andy Reid blew a 28-point lead in the second half of a wild card game on the road. And, it took getting a different quarterback, but it didn't crush that organization. So it just, they're probably at a little bit of a fragile time, but you got to wonder if maybe Herbert's sitting there, even if they keep Staley and it doesn't crush the team, if he's like, I don't want to play here for my whole career. Like he's looking at what happened to Phillip Rivers, and then he's sitting there going, maybe I should, get out when my contract is up and see where else I can go.
Yeah, and how many other players are having that same opinion, like Allen and Eckler? You know what I mean? Just like, what am I doing here? I could see him being completely deflated after this, dude. I could see the entire AFC West being deflated next year. Just everybody's hopes were so high in the AFC West. You saw all the rankings at the beginning of the year, putting us at 3 or 4 in some of the rankings in the division. Just ridiculous. Yeah, it's going to be hard to bounce back from watching a retooling Chiefs just kind of sweep up the division like that. And you're not making any serious moves. So, like, why wouldn't the Chargers just be completely baffled again next year? I don't see them like rising or getting any better by any means.
No, they did fire their offensive coordinator, which I thought was kind of weird. Brandon Staley's a more defensive-minded coach. He comes from the defensive side of the ball as a coordinator. So maybe a change there helps Justin Herbert in the offense. To me, Justin Herbert's just a guy that he'll throw for a lot of yards and make some flashy plays, but he just doesn't make the plays when you need to make the plays to win games. He's not clutch, right? That's the term, clutch.
Yeah.
Is a player clutch or not? They just don't show up. He just does not rise up and make the plays that he needs to make in crunch time when the game's on the line when it matters most. We saw it last year in that Houston Texans game, one of the worst teams in the league. He threw 2 terrible interceptions in the fourth quarter, one that got returned for a touchdown. They lost that game. They missed the playoffs by 1 game. That's been this dude's MO, and that's why he's still, at this point in his career, I want to say 4 years in, no playoff wins. So
yeah, instead of New Mahomes, they should call him New Rivers, right? Because seems a lot more similar to that situation than the Mahomes situation.
Right, yeah. So I saw Carol was in here. Good to see you, Carol. Thanks for joining CKL. Appreciate that. These other games, let's talk about them real quick. What's that, Nick?
So we got Dylan in there too.
Yeah, Dylan. Good to see you, Dylan. Hope you're doing well, man. Yeah, so the other AFC wild card games, let's just go to the Bills-Dolphins. Don't want to spend too much time on it, but another game that looked like it was going to be a clunker, a little bit of a snooze fest there. The Bills jump out to, I believe it was, a 17-0 lead.
Yeah, it was bad.
And then Josh Allen lets the Dolphins back in the game with just some terrible play. That dude had 3 fumbles and 2 interceptions. I realized only one of the fumbles ended up being picked up by the Dolphins, but that dude's a turnover machine, and that ended up being a 3-point game in large part because of him and giving the ball away. What did you guys think when you were watching that Dolphins-Bills game, Bo?
Unlike the Jags, I was like, man, the Dolphins might actually do this, right? Like I was completely wrong on both of those games, but like it seemed like they had the momentum and they were just getting everything going their way, from like what you were pointing out, Josh Allen turning it over, to their defense coming up big, their offense coming up big with a 3rd string quarterback in there. Like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. What about you, Nick? Alrighty.
Nick froze up a little bit. We'll give Nick a second here to unfreeze.
I really thought that game was much closer than it needed to be, right? Like, man, I thought it was going to be another upset. And I was sitting there recalling our last podcast, just going like, is this game a trap game? Because like it just seems like the Dolphins are just like everybody's just ruling them out, and the Buffalo Bills are making it to the championship game already. And whew, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping that they were gonna make that comeback, just for the sheer like rubbing it in Bills fans' faces, just like, oh, there you go. But
right,
yeah.
Bills Mafia would have melted down if they would have lost that game. That the Dolphins were the 7th seed, and I was rooting for them to come in and get it done. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, do I really want the Tyreek Hill revenge game? You know what I mean? I just, for some reason, I wanted to avoid that. Looks like I got Tony's here in the chat. Good to see you, Tony. Thanks for joining us, man. Talking about your Bills, eking one out. I don't know how you feel about this game against the Bengals. We're going to get to that here later in the show, but that should be a heck of a game. Nick, what were your thoughts about Bills Dolphins?
Yeah, I mean, Nick Wright calls it the Josh Allen roller coaster, and I think that's kind of what you saw in that game. You saw how dangerous the Bills can be when they play good football, but then you turn the ball over a bunch of times, and I mean, it just lets a subpar team come back into the game. They do have weapons, and the Dolphins, to be honest, I mean, they could have won that game if they weren't, getting a bunch of penalties and blowing their timeouts and just doing kind of some dumb stuff there. So the Bills are still a super dangerous team, and Josh Allen doesn't have those mistakes all the time, right? You saw he can chuck the ball and get it on a dime, 30, 40, 50 yards downfield. And so, it was a weird game. And then part of it is, is it because it's a divisional game? Those are always kind of weird, but it was interesting to see the Dolphins, stage a almost come back and make a game of it. And kudos to, that quarterback being put in that position and performing that well and pushing him right to the wire. So. Yeah,
the Kansas City kid, Independence, Missouri, Skylar Thompson. He was awful in that game, though. He was like 18 for 38 or something, and just
there were some key drops though too.
He had some bad drops, but he threw a terrible interception deep in their own territory on a 3rd down where they could have just punted it away. Their defense was playing fairly well at that point. But hell, I see Brenda talking about if the Dolphins would have had Tua. If they could remember there's a play clock, they probably would have won that game.
Right.
I understand you've got a 3rd string rookie quarterback playing. Okay, so you forgot or you got wrapped up in the moment and you missed the play clock and got a delay game and had to burn 1 timeout. They did that 3 or 4 times. We're just totally free. They were going into the huddle with like 8 seconds left on the play clock, and you're just thinking, what are you doing? There's no way you're going to break the huddle, get set, and snap the ball. Some of that's on the quarterback. Some of that's on the coach. A lot of people were being critical of the Dolphins coach, Mike McDaniels, for not getting the play calls in quick enough. There was the whole, well, if he wasn't worried about hitting his vape pen, he would have been getting the plays in on time. That was a weird thing that was talked about after that game. But, yeah, first 7 seed to really give the 2 seed a scare, right? The previous 3 7-seed matchups were all kind of laughers and stinkers.
Yeah.
I know the Seahawks gave John V's 49ers a little bit of a scare there in the first half of that game, but 49ers blew their doors off in the second half, and that was not
Completely.
a great
Yeah, exactly.
The other 7-seed teams were not a competition. Remember, Chiefs lay in the wood and embarrassed the Steelers last year in that 2-7 AFC matchup on Wild Card weekend. So, yeah, maybe making Bills Mafia a little nervous after you struggle with the Dolphins at home with the Bengals.
A little nervous. Look, did you see this comment right here? Oh, Nick just changed it. Do you guys see this?
Yeah, I saw Tony.
He's being realistic.
Yeah, that was a close game.
There's his justification for it, but man,
right.
I feel like you would have more confidence than that, my man.
Yeah, I don't know though. The Bengals. We'll just move on to that game since Tony kind of brought them up here. The Bengals. They had a game against the Buccaneers where they were down big early, and the Buccaneers honestly turned the ball over on their own side of the field 2 or 3 times. The Patriots had them beat, fumbled the ball at the goal line, going in for what would have basically been a nail in the coffin touchdown that the Bengals would have lost there. They barely squeaked by against the Ravens at home. I know the Ravens defense is good, but that's not the old Ray Lewis, Ed Reed vaunted Ravens defense either. They had Tyler Huntley at quarterback. The Bengals are beatable. Not to say that they're not a good team. They are. They're the big 3. There was a meme going around. It was like a combat picture of 4 soldiers in camo gear, and they got the weapons, and they're like peeking around this corner, and one of them was in a clown suit, and someone had put like the Bengals, the Bills, and the Chiefs little logos over the 3 guys in uniform, and then the Jaguars logo over the clown suit guy. Those 3 are the class of the AFC, but Bengals are beatable, and they showed that against the Ravens at home. Nick, we were watching that game together there at your house. I honestly thought the Ravens were going to do it.
Me too.
If Huntley doesn't try to jump and stick the ball over the goal line, which to me that's the dumbest play going in the NFL right now. You just are opening way too many doors to bad things happening when you are diving over the pile and sticking the ball out like that. You're just asking for it to get knocked out of your hands. It did. What did you think about that Ravens-Bengals game, Nick?
Yeah, the Bengals, we were talking about it. The Bengals offense scored once in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, so really the difference in that game was Lamar Jackson not playing. In my opinion, I think that if Lamar Jackson plays that game, then the Bengals are sitting at home this weekend. They have significant injuries on their offensive line now, and they had that same unit going all through the season, and now I think they have 3 guys that were injured. I don't know if some of them are going to play, but even if they're playing hurt, right? So it's just they're beatable. I didn't watch any of the games this weekend and come away and think that none of the teams are beatable, right? I mean, the closest world beater teams looked like San Francisco and Dallas, but we know what Dallas is. They're hot and cold, and as long as Dak is playing well, then they're gonna look good. But if he doesn't play well, then they look like shit. And then the 49ers, it's just really, can Purdy keep this pressure up? So the Cincy game, I wasn't utterly impressed with their performance, and I bet they would say the same thing. And honestly, I was sitting there at the end, I was like, man, the Ravens are going to score here, and then they're going to win this game, because the Bengals really had no options for them on offense in the second half.
Yeah, Bengals offense had no juice going at all in that game. Everybody was blasting Mahomes and saying he choked because he only scored 3 points in the second half of the AFC Championship game last year. Well, that's only 4 points less than the Bengals scored at home against the Ravens in the wild card game. I don't see anybody saying he, choked the game away. Interesting second half. Bo, did you watch that Bengals-Ravens game?
Yeah, I watched a bit of it. And I agree with everything Nick said. And I can't help but think that that's what teams think about us, right? Because somehow they just kind of find a way to win. They play teams a little bit closer than they kind of should with the weapons that they have and everything, but they do it. They pull off those wins, right? So to me, that's why I'm really interested in watching this Bills Bengals game, right? Like, I mean, both these teams have the capacity to score. Both of them have the capacity to keep the other team from scoring. So it's like, which team's going to show up? Which team's going to do that? But as far as going back to the game, I started laughing so hard when they went for 2, and he does the exact same move and tries to go over the pile, right? Or was it for a touchdown or for 2? I think it was
trying to get the touchdown there. Yeah.
Or for the touchdown, right? Excuse me. So I just started laughing, thinking about our conversation, right? Just like, well, I guess that's one for me and one for Scott right there. 1-1 right there on if you should go for that right there. But no, I thought they were going to come back too. Again, just kind of repeating what Nick said though, like they do look beatable. I mean, how many games with Cincy specifically, but just this year in the NFL, we've seen that are just 1-score games, right? So like I haven't really seen too many powerhouse games where one team's just like, man, they're putting everybody away. So yeah.
The Chiefs had one of those games where they blew out the Raiders the last week of the season, but the Raiders had nothing to play for in that game.
Yeah.
The thing I kept thinking watching the Ravens Bengals, and I thought this watching the Bengals play other teams the last year or two. The Chiefs are the only team that can't get pressure and sack Joe Burrow. It's
fascinating.
Insane. It's insane. And the Chiefs, they're second in the NFL this year with sacks behind the Eagles. And even in the game we played him a few weeks ago that we lost, could not get to the freaking guy. He was running for his life. He was getting sacked. He was throwing the ball away because he was getting pressure. Man, when we play that team, he stands back there in the pocket and is patting the ball.
Just comfortable.
Getting to his third, fourth read, taking off running.
But I mean, we kind of know that. We always kind of say like, if we do have an Achilles heel, it's our defense, it's our secondary, right? It's the pass rush. It is what it is, man. Like I still feel like that's developing, and I think it's actually pretty solid now compared to what it's been. But man, we've done that with so many teams. We've made them look so good. Like I was like when you were saying that, I was thinking instantly of like Russell Wilson and the Broncos, right? Like how is he able to score 3-4 touchdowns on us, have career days on us, but then go and play the entire NFL and just suck it up? The Colts, is another one. Just like we just let these teams do it to us sometimes. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, Tom, you're right. And their line is even more banged up now because they've lost a couple of guys here on that offensive line in the last few weeks. Really, my takeaway from Super Wildcard Weekend was how much of an advantage it is to have that bye week.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not only just there was these close games that some of the favorites, Super Bowl favorites like the Bills, it could have lost. I know that Seahawks-Niners game ended up not being close, but that was a close game at halftime. The Seahawks were giving the 49ers all they could handle there. And then they did a couple dumb things where they turtled there at the end of the half instead of going for it to try to get a score when they had the momentum. And then the Geno Smith fumble down there inside. I think it was inside the 10-yard line, I want to say. It was down in the red zone, definitely. That the 49ers turned into a touchdown, just completely swung the field and shifted the momentum in that game, and they blew them out. But yeah,
the longest return in playoffs,
and you're not risking injury to players. I mean, look at the Bengals losing some linemen in that game. Yeah. That's how we know all about losing linemen in the playoffs, right? Going into that.
Dude, we were saying that during our live stream. We saw how many Chargers players get hurt had they won that game. We're like, well, this isn't going to be a hard game next week with all these guys gone.
Exactly.
Yeah, we know what it's like to lose offensive linemen and have to go on and win in the playoffs. It happened to us going into the Super Bowl where we lost Eric Fisher, lost some guys. Mitchell Shorts went out earlier in the year. But, just really tough to lose guys to injury. These hard-fought division games, too. There's a lot of division games. And, division opponents, they want to knock each other. They want to knock you out, especially the underdog. The Ravens and the Dolphins wanted to knock out the Bengals and the Bills big time in those games. So extra motivation for the underdogs. Chiefs got the week off. Jags pull the 27-0 comeback. They will face the Chiefs this Saturday at Arrowhead Stadium. Looking like we might have a little snow in that game. Patrick Mahomes, he's self-proclaimed snow game guy. So maybe that plays into our favor. It would have been nice. I was watching that. We talked about this on last week's episode. Bo and I said we kind of wanted to play the Ravens if we had our choice of opponent. I was watching the way the Ravens were putting pressure on Burrow and the way they were kind of shutting down that passing attack of the Bengals. And I was kind of thinking, man, I don't want to play the Ravens after all, especially if Lamar was going to come back. We'll never know now. But how are you feeling about this matchup? We'll break down the game, what we think the keys to the game are a little bit more in depth. But, Bo, how are you feeling? You like this matchup? You like the Bengals coming to Arrowhead?
I can't imagine it'll be much louder than our fans were here on Saturday, honestly.
I'm loving this matchup going into Arrowhead. That dude's going to experience the loudest stadium in his life, and he's been to, 2 national championships, just like some of the biggest games out there in some of the bigger stadiums. He's going to experience loud. He's going to realize it's much louder than Jacksonville.
Right.
No, I feel good. I'm not like overly confident to the point I was making earlier about all these one-score games this season.
Sure.
We've seen it even with us with terrible teams. But just having played them before, kind of knowing their MO, watching them, the only thing I'm kind of worried about is like what you were saying about the Ravens is their pass rush. They look, I mean, granted, the Chargers O-line is nowhere near what we have, and it's depleted, as we were just talking about. But, man, they looked vicious. And I was just like, oh, my God. I mean, Patrick might have to be scrambling if we're playing them. But no. Sorry, I lost my train of thought just for a second. What were we talking? All right, let's start about reading the chat.
Where are we?
Yeah, what page are we
How
on?
we feel about the matchup with the Jaguars?
Excuse me. Yeah, sorry. Started reading the chat. Got lost. But no, yeah, having played them before, I feel like Andy Reid's going to come out with a great game plan. I can't see it being too much different. I know like we're not the same team and they're not the same team in the Week 10 matchup that we had against them, but I feel like we've just gotten sharper. They're just trying to like finally come around as a team, whereas we're like honing that sword, like fine tuning that blade. So I think that'll be the difference in the game that we're going to see.
Yeah, Nick, how do you feel about? You like the matchup, the opponent?
Yes, somehow, some way, all of a sudden we're the elder statesmen in the AFC, right? We've got the most tenured quarterback, the oldest quarterback in the that's left in the AFC playoffs. Has played in 11 playoff games. I mean, he's pushing a whole season's worth of postseason experience versus a team that overachieved and had to come back against a wild card team down 27 because they had 5 turnovers in a half of a football game that's coming into Arrowhead Stadium, right, in the postseason. And we know what that environment is like because, we've been there. But, yeah, so, I mean, I feel this is about as good of a divisional matchup as you're going to get, right? It's no guarantee that the Chiefs are going to win. The Chiefs could do some things that hurt them. When we played the Jags last time, we had, we're -3 in the turnover battle. We still won by 10 points, but, you can't do that in the postseason typically and come out ahead. So we're going to have to really have our stuff together. And then you asked earlier about, if that comeback – you felt like it made them more dangerous. And to me, the Chiefs are looking at that and they're like, they're not going to get complacent now if they get a lead. And they're going to be like, dude, these guys just came back from 27 down last week. We've got to keep going, like more, because the Chiefs, you've seen them before, even in the postseason where they get up, happened against the Bengals. And it's almost like they take their foot off the gas, like the team can't come back from that deficit. And so I feel really good about this matchup. I think it's as good as you're going to get at this stage of the playoffs.
Yeah, look, the Jaguars to me, they're a little bit like the Buccaneers. They won a pretty weak division. I think if the Jaguars were in any of these other divisions in the AFC or the NFL, they wouldn't be in the playoffs.
No
Chiefs
way.
are an 8.5-point favorite, which is a huge line for a divisional round playoff game. You very rarely see lines over like 3-4 when you get this late in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Look, the Jaguars, did you guys watch that last game of the year, the win and in for the Titans and Jaguars game? Did you watch that game? Either of you guys?
I don't think
so.
They did not look good against the Titans. I thought the Titans were going to win that game. Jaguars pulled it out there at the end. the Titans were playing with. I can't even remember what their quarterback's saying. When we were talking about the Dolphins with their third string quarterback, I think the Titans were playing with their like 13th string quarterback.
Mm.
And then they needed a
The
miracle
dude with
at home.
alopecia.
Right. They were needing a miracle at home to beat the Chargers. I really like this matchup. To me, you can't ask for a better advantage or a better matchup at this point in the playoffs. Not saying that the Jaguars can't win, not saying that they can't make it a close game, but like you said, Nick, these two teams played earlier in the year, and the Chiefs were -3 and still won by double digits. They were taking it to the Chargers. They were taking it to the Jags in that game, and then they gave up a quick, lazy on defense score there to end the first half, and then the Jaguars. I keep saying the Chargers. The Jaguars got the ball to start the second half and scored, and made it a game. Chiefs fumbled on I want to say a Kadarius Toney fumbled punt there inside the red zone that led to one of their scores. The Chiefs have the advantage.
I still remember it being like 27-10 or 14 in like the fourth quarter, though. Like even with everything you just said, I don't remember it being like close.
It was like 17-0 at one point, and then the Chargers. Why do I keep saying Chargers? Jaguars. I need to get some of whatever Bo's got in his cup because I'm drinking water here and I can't even talk straight. Keep my thoughts straight.
Elevated.
But yeah, in that game, the Chiefs, they got up 14 or 17-0 to 3, and then they did something. They gave up a field goal or a touchdown there on a lazy drive to end the half. The Jaguars got the ball. If you remember, that was the Jaguars did an onside kick, right? They chose to defer to the second half.
Yeah.
And then did the onside kick.
Oh, yeah, dude. Good memory.
So they had a lot. You talk about being -3 in the turnovers. That's basically like another turnover, right? Getting an onside kick, stealing a possession. They got the ball to start both halves. The Chiefs were too much for them. The Chiefs they have the advantage. We'll start breaking down here more in depth what we think about the offense and the defense and the coaching advantages or whatnot. But the Chiefs, to me, they are clearly better everywhere. They have the better quarterback. They have more experience. I know that people are talking about the Jags defense. The Jags defense doesn't have a player like Chris Jones on it. You go back through and look at the stats from the Week 10 game. It's no guarantee of what's going to happen in this game, but the Chiefs,
they had like 5 sacks, right? 5 or 6.
Yeah, they statted them. They had 5 sacks. They had more yards. They had more first downs. They had more time of possession. That was another one of those Chiefs games where they won by 10. They probably should have won by 20 or more. So,
oh yeah,
I'd like to know where do you think the Chiefs' biggest advantage lies in this game, Nick?
quarterback, man, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
He's the dude. He's been there. He's got the experience. He's talented, and he's got a supercomputer for a brain. So that and Big Red. I mean, and also Andy Reid is going against a protege here. So you look at the Rams and how they've been kind of dominated for the most part by the 49ers, and people talk about how McVay being the protege, holding the clipboard for Shanahan, you're always going to be the dude that held his clipboard. Doug Peterson was a player under Andy Reid, and then Andy Reid brought him in. He's he's a coach. He won a Super Bowl, so he's a hell of a coach. But I just think that having those two people on our team versus Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence, I mean, if anybody that watches football, whether you know a lot about it or not, if you said you can have this coach and this quarterback or this coach and this quarterback, everybody's going to pick Andy Reid and Patrick. So that's our biggest advantage. So I don't know what you think, but I kind of took the easy route.
No, but I completely agree with you. I'm just going to kind of roll right off with what you said. Is just that Travis Kelce, right? Like, we have the quarterback to throw to the best tight end in the league. I think I might have my stats a little mixed up. It might be the Chargers, but might be doing what Scott's doing here, but the Jags have like the worst defense when it comes to pass protection of a tight end. So really looking forward to that matchup and seeing what they try to do. It'll probably be like some kind of double, triple coverage. But, then that just opens up everybody else who practiced today. I was going to do a little injury report, but it's pretty easy. Everybody practiced except me, Cole Hardman, right? So there it is. So all of our weapons are pretty much there. Yep, even CEH. I mean, he was I don't know if he got listed as active, though. I think he just
No, I don't think so.
He just came off IR.
Right. But yeah. So I mean, as soon as they double, triple team TMFK, right, opens up everybody else. And to Nick's point, we got the best quarterback that just can find the open guy. And so looking forward to what Travis Kelce brings to the table. What about you, Scott?
They got the rest advantage. Nick you just talked about the health. Really, they're healthy at every position. I mean, this is basically the team that started the season. They're getting Jody Fortson back. They also, I think, almost equally as big as the health and the rest is just the experience of playing in big games. I don't think anybody on the Jaguars has played in a game this big before. And for most of the key players on the Chiefs, this is just, they do this all the time. And playing at home, it was interesting. Trevor Lawrence put up a little bulletin board material there for Chiefs Kingdom for the fans this time. Usually it's bulletin board material for the locker room, but this is for Arrowhead. We need to be there. We need to be loud. It's going to be maybe a little cold, a little snowy. I love going to a snow game. Football's meant to be played in the elements as long as it's not a blizzard.
We are good in the snow. That's awesome if it's supposed to snow.
Yeah, so the Chiefs, Nick, you mentioned Patrick Mahomes. The dude's he takes his game somehow to another level in the playoffs. I was looking at his playoff numbers, his passer rating, his QBR, his touchdown to interception ratio actually gets better in the playoffs, and he leads quarterbacks all time in most of those statistics. He had over 1,000 yards passing in the playoffs last year. He's averaging 350 a game or something like that. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
So good.
It's going to be a long day for the Jaguars. I have a feeling.
Brenda brought up a good point. She said revenge game for Juju. I think this is where he got the big concussion, right? So was against the Jaguars.
Andre Cisco hit him in the head there on a cheap play that they threw the penalty flag on, then decided to pick it up for some reason because I guess once they saw him knocked unconscious, they thought maybe he didn't hit him in the head. Weird thing there.
It just happened in the course of play. Some weird decision there.
Yeah. So look, the Chiefs, they got no excuses to not win this game and win this game fairly comfortably. Did you do Keys to the Kingdom this week, Nick?
You know I did.
Yeah.
All right, let's get this going here. Okay, so I'm not presenting. 1 second.
Caught him off guard, Scott.
I remember my first beer. There we go.
My first non-alcoholic beer.
I know. Lagunitas IPNA, baby. All right, so this week's Keys to the Kingdoms Divisional Round Playoff Edition. Regular season record, the Chiefs, 14-3 versus the 9-8 Jags, right? So obviously the Chiefs had the advantage there. Season point differential, Chiefs versus their opponents, 4th in the league, 127 positive point differential versus the Jaguars, 7th at plus 54. The turnover differential, right? This is what we've talked about in the Keys for over a month now.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs have made some progress here. Now they're at -3, which is 22nd in the league, not quite middle in the league, but if you were to look at the trend over the last several games, right, it would be because they've moved in the right direction versus the Jaguars, who are 7th in the league at a +5 turnover differential. This is a big one, right? So This is defensive sacks. The Chiefs have got 49 sacks on defense, which is 4th in the league, and the Jaguars have only got 31. So they're 28th in the league as far as actually getting to the quarterback, which that's a huge advantage for the Chiefs. We know how slippery Mahomes is, right? And then this is the last one. I didn't do a joke stack because this is the serious shit right here in the playoffs. But the QB playoff record, 8-3 versus 1-0. So you've got just all of that experience. Like I've already said it earlier, you've got the oldest, most tenured guy on our team that also has the best stats. The MVP most likely of the league this year, thrown for over 5,000 yards and all the good stuff that we know. So, I mean, it's really just the reason that I kept the turnovers on there is because it's really the Chiefs. If they lose this game, it's going to be probably something that they did poorly, right? That they're not going to get beat because the Jaguars are just a better team. I would be highly surprised if that's the case. If something were to happen, we would be looking back and going, yeah, the KC screwed up here and they did this. We'd have the muff punt returns, all that sort of thing happening. So, so that's this week's keys, man. Let's just go and kick some ass.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, everything there is suggesting Chiefs win this game.
Dominate.
And probably cover that spread of 8.5. I know the Chiefs have struggled to cover spreads, but I just feel like playoff time, this team's going to be focused. I wonder sometimes if the Chiefs don't get bored playing these regular season games and just the monotony of going out there.
Dude, I couldn't help but think that the last 5 or 6 games that they were just kind of messing around, especially when you see like snow globe plays and like linemen going into the end zone that like, yeah, they to your point, they look bored.
Right. They're taking everybody's best shot every week, and they have for what, 3 years now? The turnover thing, that's the one thing that is going to keep this game close, in my opinion, is if the Chiefs have another game where they're -2 or 3 in turnovers.
Right.
Can't do it. Can't do it this time of year.
The good news is that Mahomes has played in 4 divisional round playoff games in his career. He's 4-0 and he's thrown 0 interceptions.
That's pretty good.
So
that's pretty good. And again, I get a Buccaneers feel about this Jaguars team because of the division that they played in. So, outside of turnovers,
Food Channel has the Raiders. Sorry, I just brought that up. Food Channel has the Raiders versus Chiefs tailgate takedown in 10 minutes. We all know who's going to take that tailgate down.
Right.
If you've ever been to a Chiefs tailgate, come on now.
Right.
Oh,
I mean,
sorry.
in order for you to, unless they're going to count Chiefs fans tailgating at the Raiders stadium, I don't know if that goes to us or if that goes to the Raiders, but hell, their owner was complaining that they don't have any fans at the game. I don't know who's going to be tailgating.
Right.
Maybe they got Gordon Ramsay or Guy Fieri or something. They're big out there right now. They got their restaurants. But
who's going to tailgate in Vegas in August and September, even October when it's 100+ degrees outside? Like, no thanks.
you don't have to bring a grill. You just, cook it on the hood of your car.
Throw it right there on the ground.
Who are you guys looking at having a big game this week, Bo?
Us, man. What are you talking about? Of course, us. I feel like we're going to come in there and set a tone and let the rest of the NFL know that Super Bowls is ours for the taking, man.
Right. Which player in specific? You got a player to watch?
Oh, which game? Okay. Got you. Kind of alluding to it before. It's the easy route. We've taken him before, but he's been really quiet these past 3 or 4 games. I think it's by design. We were talking about Chiefs looking bored. I kind of brought up the idea of like resting your players in a game essentially without really running them too much. So I'm going with Travis Kelce. He's still had games. He's still all reliable for Patrick Mahomes whenever it's 3rd and you name it. He's going to 87. But he just hasn't gotten in the end zone. He's been rather quiet. So like I feel like that's almost been by design, keeping him quiet under the radar so that these next 2 games that they can just bring him in, light it up. I think it was Brenda who brought it up. Juju's revenge game. That's going to be like my little 2 sneaker. I also agree that Juju's been quiet by design. Look for him to have a big game. What about you, Nick? Who are you looking for?
I'm going to go Kadarius Toney. I think that you've seen him get more involved in this offense. You've seen that he's very elusive and he can make people miss when he's out in space. And so I think that they've got some stuff for him keyed up, and I think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I'm going defense. Chris Jones, the Jags offensive line is they can be had. George Karlaftis is stepping his game up. which is drawing some of the attention away from Chris Jones. Teams can't just double up Chris Jones now. Frank Clark, I don't know what to think about him. He practiced, right? He's not on the injury report. He had the groin issue.
Yeah,
against the
he's
Raiders.
a limited participant with a groin injury, but
yeah,
still practicing.
He's been showing flashes here towards the end of the season, and he's been talking about it's simmering. It's starting to boil. It hasn't boiled over yet because it's not the playoffs, but I think Frank Clark has been on. George Karlaftis, that defensive line. They had 5 sacks, excuse me, against the Jaguars in that Week 10 game. So give me Chris Jones, who I believe should be Defensive Player of the Year. I know John V is not going to like that, but look, if you look at a lot of the metrics, he's up there with Nick Bosa on the 49ers. Nick Bosa plays on the edge and just rushes the quarterback. It's a lot harder to get sacks and to get pressures when you're playing at that defensive tackle position there in the middle of the line. I expect him to come out and have a huge game, come in, or just wreck that. Get I think Trevor Lawrence can get rattled too a little bit. I know he's played in big games, but you get in there and get a couple good hits on him early, and let him know it's going to be a long day, and you're playing in the big dog's yard this time. You're not playing the Chargers at home this week, okay? You especially if you come out and you throw 2 or 3 interceptions in this game, it's going to be a real long day.
I don't think there's a quarterback in this league that wouldn't be rattled if Chris Jones got to you early and hit you hard, man. You're just running from that guy the rest of the game. But I also got to show some love to our guy, Nick Bolton. Always have for 2 seasons now. Some people don't think we do, but looking for that guy to also have a big game like he always does, setting records for most solo tackles, most tackles in a season. That guy's a force to be reckoned with. That's been flying under the radar too. But I want to throw it out there that we support him.
Laney's got a good pick there. Jarrett McKinnon. Looking for him to have
the Jet.
Yeah.
Thought about going Jet. Also, just to dig at John V too, old tired legs. So
tired
legs.
Be interested to know if anybody everybody in the chat there who they think. Laney's got McKinnon. Maybe we've got Brenda or somebody else. Tom, maybe John C. Carol, if you're still on us. Dylan, if you're still watching. Who's going to have a big game? Yeah, old tired legs. Offensive AFC Player of the Month. That was so funny. We're making light of someone who left a comment and said they weren't going to watch our show anymore because we were too hard on Nick Bolton.
Down on Bolton.
Bo's like president and CEO of the Nick Bolton fan club. The dude talks about him.
I picked him last year. You're just like, love that guy.
Yeah, John.
I'm not just the owner. I'm also a member.
Right. Exactly. So let's you guys want to do a score prediction on this game and then start talking about some of these other matchups?
She's that lady with the tired legs, John V.
Yeah, I love the tired legs thing. That's funny. I'm sure everybody's probably aware of the joke now, but when he was with the 49ers, he couldn't get on the field, and people said maybe his legs were tired or he got worn out as the year went on. But, I don't know what else there is to say about this game. It seems like it's so uneven. It's hard to really kind of break down too much because everything you talk about, the Chiefs have the advantage in this game. Tom's getting on there 30-23. That's not a bad prediction. I like that from Tom. Nick, what do you think?
I'm gonna go Chiefs 37, Jags 21. We're gonna be partying at Arrowhead.
Ooh, I like it. I got Chiefs 31, Jags 21.
31-21, another 10-point win from Bo. Covers the spread. I'm going
with the over on the spread for sure.
I'm going 38-24 with some garbage time there at the end. I just think the Chiefs are so far superior to this team. I know Trevor Lawrence has been playing great, but playing that division, their level of competition has not been great. They have not played in a place like Arrowhead, playoff atmosphere. Maybe the weather, depending on how cold it is, the snow maybe keeps the scoring down a little bit, possibly.
John C.
But yeah, see, there we go. John C's on getting on there, 41-21. That's a good prediction. The offense scores a lot of points in the playoffs. This team comes ready. They come focused. They got the rest. They have the advantage of being able to game plan for these guys without having, Jaguars spent all last week getting ready for the Chargers. So I think Chiefs are going to win fairly comfortably. Let's break down some of these other games, divisional matchups, divisional round matchups in the NFL playoffs. Let's just talk Bills-Bengals, the other AFC game.
I'm so looking forward to that game. I think the most.
AFC Championship game on the line. What do you think, Nick?
Sorry, I was reading the chat. Which one?
Bengals-Bills.
Dude, that's the thing about our chat, dude. Our chat's so awesome that I get caught up. Even when I'm talking, I start reading it, just like, I know, man.
Yeah,
what were we talking about? Sorry.
Bengals Bills. Look, it's gonna be tough. I just think Josh Allen, he's been prone to turnovers and he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. So, I'm gonna give the edge to Cincinnati here. Although I think it's going to be a close game. So I'm going to pick Cincinnati to win in a close game like 27-24, 31-28, something in that range. I think you're going to see a good amount of offense. You're going to see Chase and all those dudes just ball out, but I think that Cincinnati's going to edge out the victory in the end.
What neutral site are they playing at again? Oh, wait, they're not. Oh, right. Oh, yeah. That's weird.
Right. Yeah. That's not till next week if the Bills have to play us. So
I agree with Nick, but I'm just I don't give the edge to the Bengals for some reason. The chat's brought it up. They have Sheffers reffing. We all know the mysterious calls that happen when that crew's on the field. So for that reason alone, I'm going to give the edge to the Bills. But still a close game. I'd say like 34-31. Maybe a little less than that.
Wasn't this Sheffers?
There's no foul on the play. I'm blocking the back.
That's when he was deathly afraid of even leaving Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah. This was the Monday night game against the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
Where they called the horrible roughing the passer penalty on.
Or no,
Chris
that
Jones,
was
had the ball.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I was thinking it was the Colts, but no, that was the week after that. Yeah.
Laney's picking the Bengals. Man, I feel bad picking the Bengals here because our guy Tony's picking the Chiefs. But I don't know, man. Josh Allen's been too up and down to me here lately. I think the Bengals. I know the DeMar Hamlin injury was horrific, and it was kind of unprecedented in a way happening in a game. But I think the Bengals are a little pissed that they have to go play this game on the road. Their offense was taking advantage of that Bills defense in that first quarter of that game that got canceled. So I like the Bengals to win by a field goal. I think it's a 3 to 4 point victory for the Bengals. They're in Buffalo. That kind of brings us to this week's poll question. I was curious to know, assuming that the Chiefs win, they will play the winner of this Bills-Bengals game. I wanted to know if the Chiefs Kingdom wanted to play the Bills in a neutral site or the Bengals at home. Nick, you want to pull that up here? This week's poll, 75% of the fans that folks participated in this poll, want the Bengals at Arrowhead, which I was surprised that wasn't a little bit closer than that.
It's probably so that they can go. Like most everybody who voted is just like, oh, if it's at Arrowhead, I could probably go to that game.
Yeah, that could have something to do with it. I'd be interested to know how you guys feel about this. I think right now the Bengals are the tougher opponent, but you get to play it at home. Playing the Bills at a neutral site game, I think the Bills aren't necessarily quite as good as the Bengals, but I feel like a neutral site game with Stephon Diggs and their passing attack. Maybe the Chiefs don't have like a game breaker at wide receiver. So I think maybe that would slightly give the advantage to the Bills. I also think the Bills' run defense can be taken advantage of. The Chiefs run the ball maybe a little bit more than they normally would with McKinnon and with Pacheco. How do you guys feel about this, Nick? Would you rather Bengals at home or Bills on the road, neutral site?
I want to play the Bengals. I want to play the Bengals, and I want to beat them to go to the Super Bowl. I feel like that's the team that has beat us more often 3 times in a row, right? And I want to beat them to go to the Super Bowl. I don't want there to be any excuses of the Bills did your dirty work and you can no. I want to play that team. I want to kick their ass and I want to go win the Super Bowl. That's how I want it to go down. But like, how lucky are we as fans that we're potentially talking about, either Mahomes versus Burrow or Mahomes versus Allen in the AFC Championship game, and that's looking like that's going to be the standard for years to come, right? So, I mean, it's going to be fun watching this play out over several years. But that's who I voted for in the poll, and also I am selfish and I want to go to the game. And there's no way I'm going to be able to go to Atlanta. So my brother has season tickets. He's kind enough to let me use his other ticket. So that's who I picked. Who'd you pick, Bo?
Well, so on my account, I went ahead and picked the Bengals at Arrowhead. And then on my burner account, I picked Bills in Atlanta because fuck it. Doesn't matter where we go. We're going to win. But I'd prefer Bengals at Arrowhead for the exact same reasons. I want that redemption game so bad. Like that. I can't help but feel that the rest of like football nation wants the Bills to go to the AFC Championship game. Like that's the feel I get. But man, for me, the path to Super Bowl, it's going through Kansas City, and we're playing the Bengals because just such a bitter taste in our mouth from last year that I want that game as well. I want to beat that team and go to the Super Bowl. No excuses whatsoever, but I'm sure we'll find some fan bases that'll have their excuses. Wink, wink.
John, the polls are on our Twitter account, man. I don't know that I put them up on the Monday of the week of the show, and I get Tom's sentiment there, saying he doesn't care who we play. If we beat the Jags, I am fully aware that the Chiefs, it's not a gimme that they're going to be playing next week. But I don't get to put the poll out until, I don't get to put them out after the game's played. It's only before. So it was a hot topic of conversation amongst Chiefs Kingdom on sports radio and the social media. Look, I think either way, the Chiefs haters are going to say, oh, Mickey Mouse 1 seed and they didn't have to play the Bills and the Bengals. I don't care either way. Oh, the Bills did your dirty work and beat the Bengals, who you could never beat.
Or vice versa.
Or if we have to beat, or if we have to beat the Bengals, it'll be, Mickey Mouse 1 seed. The Bills, you didn't have to play them, and they beat you in the regular season. And Josh Allen, I think you're going to get that shit no matter what, each way. So,
yeah, probably. Tony wants to know what they did for the season ticket holders here, Scott, if anything.
What's that?
Tony was asking, are the season ticket holders getting any type of compensation for that game being switched?
Well, we got priority on ticket sales for a possible neutral site game that didn't work through Ticketmaster all that well, so we really didn't get any benefit. I waited in the lobby. I was going to buy some tickets and see if I could swing a way to go, and then if I couldn't, I was going to try and just sell them to some Chiefs fans to make sure there was 2 or 4 more Chiefs fans in there than Bills. But when I got on today to log in to the thing, I waited in the queue for 30 minutes and got there. And, of course, Ticketmaster's system froze up. It got overran or whatever, even though they were supposed to have staggered it out by seniority of season ticket holders in 2-hour increments. But no compensation as far as I know. Maybe they'll do a discount on tickets for next year if the Chiefs lose an AFC Championship game. I know a lot of Chiefs Kingdom is worried that if this is popular and goes well, then the league will look at doing this every year. I'd have a major problem with that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't see it going well, though. Like, I see it going well for Chiefs and Bills fans that live in Atlanta. I don't see it going well for either of those fan bases, though.
there's a lot of people that would like to take a trip to Atlanta, especially this time of year. A little bit warmer there than it is here. I mean, I would like to go to the game, but I don't think it's going to happen. So no, Tom, we didn't really get much benefit
I'm into
or
that, John B.
compensation. Yeah, I could probably maybe I could try to work something out like that. That'd be a good time. Hotels and Airbnbs are going to be sky high that week, though. You might stay like out in Flagstaff and drive into Phoenix for the game, or maybe still
You guys
at Pub
stay at my
Rock.
house in Vegas. It's only a 5-hour drive.
Right, there we go. Stay Bo's place out there in Vegas. So let's talk about NFC just for a minute here, since we got our man John V. The 49ers play their
They look
NFC
good.
divisional matchup. They play the Cowboys.
Yep.
The Cowboys, to me, are just such a weird team.
Right? They're so unpredictable.
Dak can play really well. They've got playmakers. CeeDee Lamb. That defense is solid.
They remind me of the
But they're
Vikings. Sorry. I don't know if she's listening, but they remind me of the Vikings, right? Just solid 1 minute, absolute dog shit the next. I just can't get my head around that team.
All of a sudden, it's 4th and 8, and you just throw the ball 2 yards.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, our condolences out to our friend Race Car. Sorry about your Vikings. I was pulling for them. I was hoping that we'd get a Chiefs-Vikings Super Bowl. That would have been a lot of fun, but Chiefs play at the Vikings next year, so we got that to look forward to. That'll be a fun trip. We'll have to make sure we get up there for that game. But, 49ers, they're the better team in my opinion. The Cowboys.
Dude, they look like the best team in the NFC, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, but they played against a Buccaneers team. I was talking about Jags giving me Bucks. The Buccaneers they were not a legitimate playoff team. They won a crappy division. They had a sub-500 record. Tom Brady looks old and scared to take a hit. He looks gun-shy out there, man. I think he needs to retire, but I've said that about 3 times, too, the last 5 years, and the guy comes back somehow and makes it back to the Super Bowl. But how do we see that 49ers-Cowboys game going? Nick?
The only X factor is how Purdy responds if the Cowboys defense can get to him, right? That's the only thing that really has me thinking that this isn't just going to be a 49ers win. To be honest, the 49ers defense is really good. They're going to make Dak and the Cowboys offense look they're going to look like the Cowboys from 2 weeks ago, not the Cowboys from this week. And so I think it's really just, is Purdy going to hold up to the pressure, right? Because it's like every week that they progress, the pressure and the amount on that kid's shoulders is going to ratchet up. And, so I think that's really the story of the game. I'm still going to pick the 49ers to win. Mostly because I hate the Cowboys and I like John V, but I'm going to pick the 49ers to win this game. I think they're going to win probably somewhere in the the 31 to 24 range. That's what I think. So, Bo?
To me, the 49ers just look dangerous, man. They have so many weapons. They can go in any direction, in the air, on the ground. It doesn't matter. I just don't see the Cowboys having that same ability. But then some weeks they do, man. Some weeks they're like unstoppable. Tony Pollard, you can't tackle the guy. And Micah Parsons just comes out of nowhere. Like that team, they're just, to me, there's just such a wild card that I have to go with what I see, and just seeing San Francisco dominate kind of like put me on their side there. I see this game being kind of close, though. Not that close, but probably like 30-20. What about you, Scott?
I like the 49ers in this game. Nick brings up the same thing I was thinking. This is going to be the best defense that Purdy has faced since he's taken over as the starter. If they can get to him and rattle him earlier, I think you saw, too, he looked a little shaky. He was making some bad throws in that first half against the Seahawks. I don't know if I want to say he looked skittish or scared, but he did not look comfortable. And the 49ers kind of put the handcuffs on him there late in the first half and for the second half of that game. A lot of short throws, wide open throws. They were leaning on the run game once they got the lead.
Love it.
There we go.
All right.
George Soto reference. That's a bad beating.
Y'all
So-
about to get Ralphie.
Yeah. Looks like we got Joseph in the chat. I don't recall seeing Joseph before. Welcome to the show, man.
Well, welcome to the show.
Joseph
Appreciate you jumping
D's.
in. As soon as the comment. Yeah, there you go. Tom Brady should give somebody else a chance at this point.
Yeah, he should just trade positions with Derek Carr.
Yeah. I see this being a low scoring game. I see the 49ers winning something 20-17, somewhere in there. I'll be surprised if the Cowboys win, but I won't be stunned. Because again, the 7th round draft pick rookie quarterback, I just don't know what he's going to do when he goes up against.
He's going to hand the ball off to
defense.
CMC and Debo until they try to hunker down on that, and then he's going to throw it to Ayuk over the top.
If I'm the Cowboys, I just load up on that line and I just tell the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey is not beating us. You're not going to run the ball on us. Make Purdy stand in there and throw the ball down the field to beat you. That's what I would do.
I can see him forcing a dink and dunk game on him, right? Make him go 15, 20 plays and drive.
Right.
But I think the Niners are more than capable of doing that, man. They're not turnover heavy. They've got weapons, as I was mentioning, and the quarterback doesn't have to throw it. He can do pitches and just little wheel routes, right? All day with those guys.
Got John F in the comments. Good to see you, John. Thanks for joining.
Got all the Johns
CKL.
back. It's turning into one of those.
Yeah. Purdy, he had a lot of yards and he had touchdowns, but what, 75 yards of that or 70 yards of that was on a little screen-looking thing to Deebo Samuel. He also had a wide-open touchdown pass where the Seahawks just completely forgot about Christian McCaffrey being on the 49ers and let him squirt out into the flat, uncovered. The Seahawks defense is not good either. The difference between the Cowboys and the Seahawks defense is a wide gap. There's a wide margin between those two units. But the 49ers defense is no slouch either. I see Dak struggling against that defense.
Watch out for that motherfunga.
Right. Motherfunga.
Motherfunga?
He's back there. 49ers healthy. They didn't get a week off, but I like them in that game. The other game, the Philadelphia Eagles, New York Giants, division matchup in the divisional round of the playoffs. Don't see that too often.
Right.
I think the Eagles are pretty easily the superior team. I don't think they're quite as superior as the Chiefs, over the Jags, we were talking about, but I don't think it's that close either. The Giants, again, cover your ears if you're listening, race car, but the Vikings are not good. So their defense is bad. If Daniel Jones is out there looking like Steve Young against you, you got problems. Daniel Jones is not that good. I see the Eagles winning this game. But
I heard Daniel Jones had the best Statue of Liberty handoff the NFL seen in 20 years or something. Isn't that how you win football games with Statue of Liberty plays? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it was funny. The Kirk Cousins too. Nick, you talked about him throwing the pass. I guess he threw it 3 yards. I thought it was 2 yards. There was people on social media saying, "Oh, that was so thoughtful and professional of Kirk Cousins to throw the ball 3 yards on that 3rd and 8 in honor of DeMar Hamlin." I was like, okay, this is going too far now.
The internet is ruthless.
The internet always wins. Oh, my God.
Internet is ruthless and undefeated. So how do you guys see this game? Bo, Eagles, Giants?
Oh, I see an ass whooping. I disagree with you on that. I think it's completely one-sided in the Eagles' favor. There's no reason I feel like for it not to be. They've just been the dominant team all year. Giants, as you're pointing out, not so much. I mean, like you pointed out, they beat the Vikings, but okay, they're not that great. Yeah, sorry, I have to say that under my breath and with some
Bo's
hesitation.
Bo's not gonna be living today for very
There
much
may or may
longer.
not be a
Oh,
gun
buddy.
pointed at me right now off camera. But no, dude, they're just, I don't know. I'm looking forward to them playing the 49ers in the championship game. I really see that happening just to see like which team is more dominant on that side. Cause I just feel like the Eagles are pretty unstoppable. Hurts is hurt. Yeah. But I mean, a hurt isn't that bad. He's better than a Herbert. So
Or Daniel Jones.
I give me
Yeah,
the
no.
Eagles in this game completely by a lot. I'd say like, let's go 35-14.
I know Nick's gonna pick the Eagles, so
Yeah, there is this voice in the back of my head that says that this year's Eagles are the Ravens of a few years ago when Lamar Jackson won MVP. I just have this feeling that might happen, but I'm not going to listen to that voice in the back of my head because common sense
What did I
says
say?
that the Daniel Jones
Sorry.
led New York Giants are not going to go to the NFC Championship game. So I'm picking Eagles. I think they'll win. I think they'll win handily in this game. So
You're
I'm
also
not,
going for a Kelsey versus Kelsey Super Bowl, though, right?
I am going for a Kelsey versus Kelsey Super Bowl. Yeah, yep. No, I mean the Kelsey Bowl would be one of my favorite things. So
That would be pretty epic.
yeah, that would be an interesting New Heights episode. They kind of talked about that a little bit in this week's episode. I don't know if you guys have listened to that yet or not, but yeah, looks like John F is in here. He's picking San Fran easily. Philly.
yep.
No, John. No.
My
IPAs. I love them. They're delicious.
What kind of
Make
IPA
me
you
spew
drinking?
wrong facts. I'm drinking a New Mexico IPA from La Cumbre called Elevated.
Elevated. La Cumbre. There you go. Pretty good. Pretty solid.
Solid. This is probably my favorite IPA of all time. It's pretty. I'm pretty biased to New Mexico beers, but
Yeah.
I lived in Colorado for a good amount of time. They have some pretty good ones, but man, this Elevated kind of puts the Colorado IPAs to shame. That's for sure.
All right. You missing your McConaughey's?
No, man, that's a summer drinker, right? It's pool time. It's a little bit more of a
Okay.
hazy. This is more traditional, a little bit more bitter.
I know you were digging it when we were out there in Arizona,
Dude.
Um,
This past year, that's all I drank this summer was those I
Yeah.
think it's Twisted Brewery McConaughey's. Man, those are good.
Yeah. there you
John
go.
F's drinking some Cabernet Sauvignon.
Man, that's a little high class for this show, John. You
Highfalutin
class
there.
to join up now.
My alcohol comes in a can, sir.
So Scott,
People are
since
gonna
we
be
were
expect-
trashing the Vikings a little bit there, I did grab a meme of the week here, and you've seen this one, but maybe everybody else hasn't. So Scott sent me this, and I laughed for a solid 5 minutes. This is the win percentage chances of the Chargers that somebody put together. And
I saw that separately, and I sent that to like my dad. I sent that to my brother. Just like, can you believe this?
Yeah,
Oh my
that
God,
was good. That was the meme of the week. The GIF of the week, I sent it to you guys in the text thread there, it's the GIF of Bart and Homer, and they're sitting on the couch in the dark with the TV light on, and they're kind of like zombie looking, and they're looking over at the camera or whatever you want to say, and they're like patting on the couch, like, come join us. And it was the Broncos and the Raiders logos over Bart and Homer, and like where he's patting on the couch, it said that the Chargers logo. I laughed for a good probably 20 minutes about that one. If you follow us on Twitter, I retweet it. You should be able to go back and find it. But yeah, that classic thing. Well, we're getting Chiefs are 2 games away from the Super Bowl, fellas.
Right?
Playing the Jags at home. Look, if I would have told you, or if somebody would have told you halfway through the season, the Chiefs get to play the Jaguars at home for a chance to play in the 5th straight AFC Championship game, possibly at home,
nuts.
I would have signed up for that in a second. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
Essentially a rookie quarterback on the Jags. Trevor Lawrence, he played good there for the second half of the year, but I don't even count last year under Urban Meyer as a year for him. So Chiefs are looking good. We're right in good position. Especially when we look back at the beginning of the season and how the media viewed this team and how some of Chiefs Kingdom viewed this team. And is this a rebuilding year? And all the division opponents went out and loaded up and spent $750 million to take us down. Sitting here coming off the bye week with a chance to beat the Jaguars to play in a 5th straight AFC Championship game. I've been a Chiefs fan I probably started watching the Chiefs when I was 5, 6 years old, somewhere in there. Really started following the team. So that's 1988, somewhere in there. So I've been watching them for a long time. And I saw one AFC Championship game up until I was almost 40 years old, right? So I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. I hope Chiefs Kingdom is basking in the golden era of Chiefs football here. Just win. You just got to win 2 games to get back to the Super Bowl. How are you guys feeling about Chiefs' chances? Where are you putting the Chiefs? What percentage chance you give the Chiefs of making the Super Bowl? I'd be interested to see what the chat thinks about this as well here. Bo?
Well, I'm pretty sure they're the Vegas betting favorites to win the Super Bowl. Not by much. I think it's just 50 points or something like that. But, dude, when you put it like that, 2 games away, right? God, it's right there for the taking. I mean, to Laney's point, the Jags don't make me nervous, but we just got to get over this game, right? Man, I know our team isn't overlooking this game, but man, we just got to focus because it's right there for the taking. All that hard work, all that stuff that they've done all season, it's right there. I'm feeling good. I think we got a shot at it. I mean, we got the Jags and then maybe the Bengals or the Bills, and we're right there, right? So 1, maybe 2 hard tests in front of us, and we're there. So I feel pretty good.
Nick, what are you thinking? Chiefs percentage making the Super Bowl here?
First, I'd like to say that one AFC Championship game we all watched together, which was cool. That's a cool memory. We watched it at Bo's house. Mom and Dad were out of town, I think. But yeah, the Chiefs' odds or chances of getting to the Super Bowl, 50%, right? I mean, I don't know that you can give it because it's 2 games and there's a lot that can happen in 2 games. But I mean, they have the best odds out of anybody to win the Super Bowl right now, just because of their experience and they're being the 1 seed and most likely home field advantage.
Having the MVP for your quarterback.
Yeah, having the league MVP. They have a Hall of Fame coach, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, but a flip of a coin to make a 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years, dude, it's fucking incredible. I was talking to one of my coworkers who's a Giants fan, and I was telling him congratulations, and he was really pumped, and I was kind of we're kind of at the point where if we don't make it to the AFC Championship game or win a Super Bowl, it's kind of people just kind of dog our team, and it kind of, and he's just dude, just shut your mouth. He's like, you spoiled ass first world fan. I was like, yeah, I mean, I get it, but that's where we're at, and it's awesome. Yeah. So I'm sure that the non-Chiefs fans that support us in the chat are loving us, hearing us just talk about how awesome our team is. But I mean, that's where we are, and we long suffered to get here. So no apologies.
Right. Yeah. We paid our dues as fans. We stuck out the tough times and the heartbreaking playoff losses. I know everybody in the chat saying don't overlook the Jaguars. We can overlook the Jaguars because we're not playing in the game. There's no way the Chiefs are overlooking the Jaguars. I can promise you that. The Chiefs are not overlooking this game Saturday. Right. So, but
yeah, I made the mistake of bringing up a trap game in our private conversation. There's no such thing as a trap game in the playoffs, and they convinced me that there isn't one. No team's overlooking any team in the playoffs. I was like, oh, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, we're not the Chargers, John. That's a good point too. We are not the Chargers. I'm looking forward to getting back out to Arrowhead too. I was out there Christmas Eve. Went out the game with Big Doug. I'm pretty sure Big Doug's probably watching right now. Watch him take care of the Seahawks, former division rival. That was a good time. Had some good times at Arrowhead this year. Went out and saw the Monday night Raiders win. That was a hell of a game. Got out and watched them beat the Seahawks. Went out and watched them lose to Tony's Bills in a close game. That was a good game, though, man. That was an exciting
That was a good game.
That was a damn good game. So
One of those one-score games.
right. Looking forward to
I
getting
went
back
to
out there.
the Denver game, saw Mahomes complete a pass to himself. So
Yeah.
it's only the
Your
second
text, dude. I still
quarterback
think about that
completed
text.
a pass
Well, that
to
didn't
himself
take
in
long to
their
see
five.
Mahomes magic.
Right. Yeah. Whenever you go to a Chiefs game, there's a good chance you're going to see something that has never happened before on a football field because Patrick Mahomes is that good. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Anything we missed or?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to make it out to Arrowhead to watch a game. I went to Arizona and watched them for the season opener against the Cardinals, watch them beat up, and I will make it for the season ender in Arizona as well. So I feel like give and take, right? Didn't make a home game, but I'll make that Super Bowl game. So
Yeah, you're not far from Phoenix out there in Nevada, are you, Bo?
no, it's a quick drive, quick little drive.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm gonna have to try to see if I can swing that and get out there and hang out. At least I don't know if I'm gonna go to the game or not, but maybe I will if the Chiefs are in it. Just fork over the cash, throw it on the credit card. What the hell? You only live once, right? So,
Yeah, there you go.
anything else you guys want to talk about before we get out of here?
No,
I'm good,
no, we
man.
talked
I'm
about the
good.
injury
I'm just
report,
excited
did
for this
everything.
game.
Yeah, good to
Yeah, I'm
go.
excited too. I'm
Ready to
pumped.
watch
I'm
some
ready.
Chiefs play some football.
Yep. Well, thanks for everybody who joined us, tuned in, watched. Looks like we have some new friends in here. Good to see John F., all the OGs, John, C, Tom, Laney, Dylan, Carol.
I got to be
Brenda.
careful in Vegas with all these Johns watching this
Right, yeah, no
podcast
kidding.
here.
Right, you're gonna be having
FBI sting, Jesus.
right. You're gonna be having the feds busting down your door here pretty soon. So, but yeah, looking forward to it. Appreciate everybody that watches. We're almost to 250 subs, and then on Twitter, once we get to 2,500 followers, we're gonna do another giveaway. So we're working on that. We'd love to do that before the end of the postseason here.
This hat's up for grabs in that giveaway. It's going to be one of the prizes. BT
That's
Dub's
part of the
little Chiefs
swag
bucket
there.
hat.
Part of the
Nice.
swag there in the background. Bo's gonna chip in. So yeah, if you're not following us on Twitter, go follow us there. If you're watching, you haven't subbed yet, do that now. We appreciate it. Like the shows, share the channel, tell a friend, tell a family member. We'd really appreciate it. And this Saturday, Chiefs, Jags, baby. Let's go, Chiefs.
Let's go Chiefs.
Let's go Chiefs.
I can't imagine.